So I'm on with Kris Schroeder. He is the founder and I guess CEO, right, of Gray Market Labs.
That's right.
Yeah, Kris was able to come and speak to our members in our DC chapter a couple of months ago. Just a great opportunity to find out what they were doing and what they have to say about your particular space. So Kris, thanks for joining me today for this series of interviews with cyber company. Not just startups, we're doing some bigger companies as well. But I think what you're doing is really cool. First question always is, what in God's name inspired you to go down this path?
This
Was
is
there a hole in the market? What got you going down the Gray Market Labs path?
well, yeah. What caused me to leave my nice day job and take zero
Yeah,
salary for a year and a week before I
right.
got my first paycheck? Yeah. So the my life before Great Market Labs, I was a technology consultant. I was leading a business around software, the U.S. defense and military intelligence space. Part of that work that we were doing was cyber counterintelligence.
Hmm.
That job was to defeat foreign adversaries before they compromise the United States. Right. So you're operating online, it's kind of information warfare, information operations, really some of the highest security work that you can really do in the world. And the reason that we had problems with that is that I wasn't building the solution. I was a consultant. I was
Hmm.
taking other people's products and applying them and government's products and applying them to try to help to enable and make that job successful, that mission successful. And all the tools, every single one of them, without exception, had problems with them. And it would literally, you'd be doing an operation, doing work, and something would stop. You'd be locked out. What happened? Oh, the tool exposed something, or this piece of technology exposed something,
Huh.
and years worth of work thrown out the window. And even more greater ramifications to individuals saying, hey, you should probably get on a plane and come home now. And you see that happen dozens of times. My co-founder Ryan and I said, we can do better. We know what the problems are. We know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So let's go build the company that can fix it. And we couldn't do it where we were. We were at
Mhm.
a services company where
Yeah.
I was measured on how many people have you hired, how many people are in your contracts, and it's a fine and a great business. But really, this had to be a product approach to this,
Right.
and that has to be a completely separate company. So that's how Gray Market Labs started.
Was this your first foray into sort of the product market, developing code?
I'd say as a full time gig, yes.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason the journey I had in my previous roles were, oh, I've tried to build a product 5 or 6 times inside of a larger organization, a services organization, and they said that's great, but we're trying to grow people, not
Right.
so. Hey, this could be taken across your government organizations and commercial and financial services and all this stuff. And they said that's great, but you're in this market and you have to grow this market, and it just
Right.
doesn't work. So yeah,
Yeah.
I did technology for I programmer by background, right? That's my training and what I did for a long time. I still do design today, but my team does not let me touch keyboard anymore.
Right. This is what happens. Once you start running a company, they're like,
Yeah,
hands off keyboard.
yeah.
That's too funny.
Last time I coded, I took down our website, so that was the last straw for them.
Well, walk us through briefly sort of how you solve the problem. What is it that your code does? What's the solution do and why is it unique?
Sure. So when we looked at all those other products that existed, you said, okay, they address it from one point of view. So they're addressing it from, I'm going to go secure the network. And so I'm going to give you this highly secured network, or I'm going to route your traffic out through another point in the world. I'm going to send you out of Dublin, or I'm going to send you out of Singapore, route your traffic so you can be protected, maybe anonymous, all different things they're trying to do. Or say, oh, hey, I'm going to give you an anonymous browser. I'm going to give you a modified Firefox or Chrome, and I'm going to secure your application, or going to harden your operating system. Everybody took it from a singular point of view, and that's where the problem was. And so if you don't say, hey, no, I'm going to take into account your infrastructure, your operating systems, your applications, your network, all the way up to your human activity, the way data moves, the way you interact with your machine, that's we have 15 patents now around how you
Wow.
do that at scale, and how you take that as a comprehensive approach to what I call privacy as a service, or security by design, privacy by design. That's the approach we take. That's where our product Replica, that's what we've built, is really the ability to do that. The product is an automation product around
Hmm.
how you create environments that are comprehensive for whatever the activity is that a customer is trying to accomplish. So if you say Replica, what does Replica do? It is giving you secure environments as a service to secure the highest risk activities for organizations. And that's where we focus.
Yeah, I think that is a admirable thing. So you really designed this mostly with sort of the DoD really scary environments. How's the transition into commercial? I mean, do commercial folks go, I completely get this, and given today's environment, it makes sense?
Oh, absolutely. So we're actually majority of our business, 2/3 of our business is commercial these days, and growth is growing in our government support, our global government support now, and our global business support and commercial. It's the transition between the government work that we did, which we continue to do today. It was really easy when you get into the cyber space, right? So the government work, nobody says that's cybersecurity. They say, oh, that's intelligence or that's
Right.
defensive work. But the cybersecurity in the commercial world, they're doing investigations, they're doing threat intelligence, they're doing all those activities that are very similar to what the government's doing. And it was an easy transition.
Oh,
So part of that is like, okay, great, you go into major banks and even medium-sized banks or small banks, everybody's got an intelligence or a security function. The larger ones have large teams that are doing this. So it's an easy transition to say, no, you need this activity. You want to control and have visibility into what's going on and be able to control your high risk activities. And all your investigation teams are doing shadow IT, they're doing burner laptops, and all this stuff that they're doing that's very, very risky, and you don't have any control over it. They take Replica, they immediately gain control, visibility, observability to everything that they're doing. So it's an easy story. And then from that story, it's never just one team. It's, oh, I can expand it. And this could be used for my DevOps team that's trying to test out a new tool that I don't necessarily trust that tool. It's
right.
going to take me a month to scan or analyze it and get it approved to be brought onto the systems, or I can drop it into Replica today and start messing with it. So
Hmm.
that's the kind of story that makes things really, really easy. It's the easy button for anything that organization considers high risk.
So, given the space that you're in, do you to sell, to go to market, do you have to, well, first of all, how do you get through the noise, right? There's 4,700 plus cybersecurity solutions today, right? How do you rise above that and get a little attention? And then does this come in and replace something, or you go, if you put us in, there's four things you don't need, or we
Right.
just create this incredibly secure environment? I know there was like three questions in one there, but
Yeah. So I'll try. And if I miss one, just
okay.
remind. Uh, yeah. So okay. So how do you? I mean, when I started, it's probably 1,300 companies. So I mean, it just continues to the market continues to grow in cybersecurity, and it's just a big umbrella. I mean, so many things get packed underneath what's cyber these days. So how do we approach the market? So Replica is an enterprise platform, right? And so it's deployed. I can do 3 users, I can do 35,000 users, and the platform scales to do that. But I don't sell, and I'm not selling to the enterprise. Sorry, I'm not going to the CIO saying you need this for your organization, because that's really, really hard.
Right.
Because okay, great. Which of my teams are you solving a problem for? We go to the teams that we know have a problem, and we in our what has happened is we haven't taken any external investment. We bootstrapped the company. And so the way we've grown is by our relationships and referrals from one customer to another. It's not a very large community when you start talking about this high security work, but as the use cases keep expanding, more people become part of our network and start to just by natural organically refer us to other customers. So where we go into, say, one of our great partners is NCFTA, National Cyber Forensics and Training
All
Alliance.
those guys, yeah.
Yeah, so they're a charity organization, 501(c)(3), based out of Pittsburgh, New York, and LA offices. They are a nexus of financial services, insurance companies, media companies, gaming companies, all have individuals that co-locate with NCFTA, along with Secret Service, FBI, federal law enforcement, NYPD, all the people that play in this cyberspace all come together. They are a customer of ours. They use our platform for a lot of their work, but we are also one of the only vendors that are a partner of their organization. So we are supporting them in this work across these different organizations. And so we're known in the community because we support the community. It's an important part of how we establish the company as a public benefit organization.
Yeah.
It's just that's how we've grown to date. Now we have some other plans to how we'll grow in the future,
Yeah.
But getting in and solving a problem for those teams and maintaining that trust relationship that we have with our customers, that's how we've cut through the noise.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's interesting, right? You have to sort of have to prove yourself in one way. Like our solution actually works. That's a big
Yeah.
start. And then it's how do I get it in the hands of some people who will try it because they become referral customers very, very quickly. So I love the guys at NCFTA. They've come and briefed us in Pittsburgh once in a while at the Pittsburgh chapter.
Yeah.
Smart bunch of folks. I love their approach. And it's a good collaboration among federal and commercial. So that's good stuff. Without giving a specific client name, because that would be not really allowable or a good idea, is there a case study where you go, we walked into this client and we made life better for them in this way? Is there one that you sort of tout that becomes a high referral?
Sure. Yeah, we've got a couple, but the one that comes to mind is we dropped into an organization last year, and initially it was their fusion center that we dropped into. So they have security operations, they've got some malware teams, and they said, great, we need about 20 secure environments, or we have users, about 20 users that need highly secured environments. They're doing risky things. Can we do a demo, do a trial? And we give you free trials, anybody that wants to check it out. And so they did it and went through. They said, yes, we love it. Can you give us a quote? We want to buy it. Fantastic. And then they came back to us before they did the purchase, said, hey, could you do another trial to this other set of teams? I
Hmm.
said, sure. Okay. Happy to do that. Let's just keep it scoped. And then they came back a third time. I said, guys, I'm happy to show people the system, but this takes us time and money to trial every time. And what ended up happening was, instead of just the fusion center, it's like one, two, three teams, it ended up having applicability across this entire organization, to the point of uh, the marketing team at this large financial services institution came to us and said, we can't access TikTok because of our corporate policies, because there's a exposure threat with that, but we still need to do that work for brand promotion and brand protection. So
Hmm.
they're now do their work for social media through Replica, and are going to have their agencies, their external third-party agencies, go through Replica, so they get that observability on what these third parties are doing, and they're no longer kind of putting their hands up of like, I can't do anything here, or I offload that risk to somebody else. They can see it, they can see what's happening. So we're now, and this is kind of the success story here, we are now the by policy for the enterprise solution for high risk activities within this organization,
Oh, wow.
which is really great. We deployed to 12 teams. We started with one, and then before we went to production, it's 12. And now this organization also does a lot of M&A transactions. So any acquired company coming in
Oh, I
that may
love
have
that
risky
concept.
activities, they take those risky activities, day one, drop them into Replica, while they take the 1 to 2 years to do their back end integrations.
Right.
Their stuff lives in Replica forever, but we give them, they're productive day one as soon as they drop into Replica. And so we just take a lot of that risk off the table for them. So you're asking, like, do you replace any tools or anything? Well, we sure ease the transition and take a lot of that work off the plate of our customers. We're the easy button for, hey, do I need a secure environment? Instead of 2,000 to 3,000 lines of code that your security team needs to maintain, it's 3 to 4 lines of code with Replica if you could go against the API, or you just use the GUI. So massive time savings, and generally a cost savings. When we look at another separate large financial institution said, Kris, coming in, the biggest competitor to what you're doing is us. They have a very large internal IT team. It could be a Fortune 500 company on its own. And they were building this program they called web containment. They spent a few years, $10 million trying to do this, and it failed. They were not able to meet their own requirements. And they spent, for a large team, they spent a much smaller fraction of that amount on Replica, and were successful day one, right? They were immediately, all the licenses were taken and used. They're growing and expanding because it just met the need as a product, right? It has to be a product approach. That's why we started
Yeah,
that.
I completely agree. And I think the best use case, and what a great use case, is the mergers and acquisitions. We've just acquired a company. We don't know what we got. I mean, it could be garbage. The security people rarely get a peek
Mhm.
before the acquisitions occurred. Now it's hurry up,
Yeah, yeah.
integrate it. Well, we have no idea how bad that environment is. Can we
Mhm.
throw it into a secure container basically and test it all out before we do any integrations. I think that's a brilliant case use, for that.
Yeah, we had just missed. I didn't have the relationship yet. We had, when UBS and Credit Suisse had merged. I mean,
Right.
that would have been a top use
Right.
case. And I didn't meet the UBS team until well after that merger had already started, and they're already in the thick of things. But exactly, that's anytime that happens. When even to the smaller merger,
Right.
they don't bring the IT people to. Maybe they vet their security policies or their cyber policies, but they're not touching systems until this deal is signed and done. And
Right.
then they're thrown into the mess.
Yeah, everybody's like, hurry up, integration tomorrow. I want Outlook working. I want all these, get AD, get all their AD in here. And like, the security guy's like, wait, I don't know what I'm
Oh,
integrating. I have no idea how bad that environment is over there. It could be a wreck. So interesting. That's a great use case. You knew this was coming, but AI, every security company at Black Hat in next week when we're there will have a big, oh, we're using AI, large language models in play here.
Mhm.
It makes our engine stronger. Great. And that's probably true. Wonderful. Some cases it's smoke and mirrors.
Mhm.
For you, is AI an important part of what you will do, or AI one of those things that you are protecting against, or both?
So yes. So I, I look at AI differently than I think the rest of the world does. So does Replica use AI? Sure. So we got our first patent in 2018, and AI was written into the patent. That's how kind of the models that we take to secure those tens of thousands of pieces of data that could be exposed. There's no way a human can do that. You have to have a machine do that. So really rudimentary kind of start to where you to go, but the AI models are the things that have matured and grown that in recent years. So from a protection side, 100% will we use AI and models? Sure. It'll make my life easier as a product company to manage these complexities within my company. So that's how I'll use it internally. But the way I view AI that's a little bit different than everybody else is my job at Replica is to make sure I focus on my customers' activity. Right. So if you're a security company, everybody said you give an approach of I'm going to give you a firewall, and a firewall protects against your ports being compromised or network access. It has a specific point of view. Replica, I focus on what is the activity that you're trying to accomplish. And I give my customers the IT resource that they need or IT resources they need that make them the most successful. And I look at AI as an IT resource, right?
Right.
You can bucket it as a tool, but it's a really nice and robust resource that can be used for so many things. So when I think about what I'm providing to my customers, day one right now, most of them just want to go play around and test and see what they can do with some of these large language models and the public ones that are out there. So just going through Replica can protect and isolate their networks and everything else from exposure to those public and publicly available AI services and APIs. And so that kind of phase one, just gives a basic level of protection in using the AI. Our data services, data controls, great. So now you can start to do some interesting test things and control and have observability into what data you might be trying to put into those models and try to get things out. So you can have that observability and the control over who can do what when. That's stage two. And what we kind of specced out for another customer, it was they saw Replica, and Replica was great, got great protections. They said, but can you just give me access to the underlying console and control? Say, Bill, you can spend $5,000 a week in Azure and $10,000 a week in GCP, and you can have access to the AI services in GCP, but not in Azure. Right. So that level of control,
Yeah.
it's right within the ethos of Replica. But I said, oh, okay, well, we do that internally. You just want me to expose those APIs to you? We slapped a GUI on top of it and said, here, this is just our backend system, but is this what you want? They said, yes, that's exactly it. So I'm looking at it as AI is so, it's almost like cyber, right? AI, it's so broad of a thing. My job is to make sure that whatever my customer's activity is that they're trying to accomplish, I give them the correct and secured or protected AI access to that AI thing, because it's
Yeah.
going to be different from whatever activities they're trying to accomplish. And they shouldn't just be, oh, I need just general AI. That's not a thing. It needs to be, what are you trying to do with it? And I'll make sure that you have it quickly and simply and sustainably within
Mhm.
Replica. So that's how I think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. how our members are viewing it. When it first hit, though, I think we talked about this in the roundtable you were in a couple of months ago, was, AI hit the scene mostly through ChatGPT over a year and a half ago, and everybody freaked out. Every member in the network said, block, block, block it, block it, block it. And then, 5 days later, it was, okay, wait a second, that's not a good idea. A CEO told me not to do that. So instead, we're going to give you guardrails and make sure you use it effectively and safely, and remind people, don't shove intellectual property into ChatGPT. Right? Let's
Yeah.
not do that. I mean, my wife is even saying to me, "Hey, help me use ChatGPT last night." I'm like, "Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love how this works." And that's just one type of AI, right? So it'll be interesting how it evolves, and I think you're using it smartly in the ways that you described. Now, this will be my favorite question. It's the last one that we'll come to is, so one of your peers comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got this great idea, and I really want to start a cybersecurity company." After you go, hang on a second, are you sure?
Right.
What is your best advice? What do you tell startups, founders like you in the cyberspace, knowing that it is such a crowded space and yet there are still things that need to be solved?
Yeah, no, yeah, the problem is not solved. I was surprised at the number of how many companies there were now out there based on when this industry has been evolving. So what do I tell them? I tell them to so solve the problem. All right. So great. You're the 1,000 endpoint companies that are protecting, installing sensors on your device and trying to monitor something, or malware detection or mitigation. There's each sector. You've got 1,000, probably hundreds of competitors in each
Right.
section of cybersecurity market. So what is it that you're solving that's different? Eyes wide open. What's different than what somebody else is solving?
Yeah.
And if you don't know the market, you got to know the market. You got to know who's out there. We started something internally a long time ago. Internal chat. We use Rocket Chat just like Slack, and so we have a channel called Competitive Landscape. And I'm very clear with the team. If you see something that you think is even remotely competitive with what we do, you post it in there and you make a comment about what is it you saw there,
Right.
because the worst thing you can do is say, no, I've got a cool idea, and you just put your head down
Right.
and wait
No one
for a
else is
year.
solving it like I
No,
am.
nobody does this.
Hmm.
You have to. Our first year, so I didn't launch the company. Our first full year is 2018, but we incorporated back in the end of 2014. And 2015, my partner and I we did still my previous life and job, and we had 40 to 50 meetings that year,
Mhm.
2015, of like potential investors, potential customers, potential advisors. This is what we're thinking about and refining, like, what is it? What's that idea? We spent an entire year doing that. And then my previous business took me way away from that for 2016, and then finally wrapped back around for 2018 to really launch this thing. So, but we spent a tremendous amount of time understanding. We knew what we were building, that we were solving a problem for our government customers, but it was a niche problem. Does this have legs anywhere else? Is this a common problem? That's what took the time to really figure out. And we knew it did, but now from 2018 to now, it took us, even when we launched it, it took us 2018 to really 2021 when we launched the Replica brand. So it's been 2.5 years now for the Replica brand has been to market. That's when we know we figured this out. And
Yeah.
we know which customers to drop into, which customers are the ones that are going to be purchasing what we're doing. What are the right teams that we're solving a problem for? It takes some time, and some people can do it faster. You might find that thing really fast, and if you do, fantastic. I just happen to be still working my day job and trying to figure this out for a few years.
Right. I got a recommendation to read Bruce Cleveland's book called Traversing the Traction Gap. If
Yeah,
you haven't read it, it's very interesting. It's, the biggest thing is, yeah, product market fit, but then are you figuring out your go-to-market strategy very early, right?
yeah,
It's not, don't wait till you have all the funding. You should have that figured out. That's part of your strategy that you should go to the VC with. And most VCs should be asking these questions is, how do you cut through the noise? How,
yeah.
there are a million of you. Why you? We ask that question all the time when we have new vendors come and prepare their slide deck to talk to our members. We say, you have to answer the question, why you and why now? There's 4,700 of you out there. Why you? Right?
Yeah,
So,
and as you said, like, we're in the beginning of this. It's hard to cut through the noise. So the only way that I know is, okay, I know a person or a team that I can solve a problem for, and I start with that one team. And
Right.
sometimes that team might mean I'm just supporting 2 to 3 people in that organization, and that's it forever. But we have those customers, and they're renewing for 3 years and 4 years. Our
Right.
first customer, we have a contract. It's going to be 8 years by the time we get to the end of this next contract that they'll have been a customer. We're solving because we're solving a problem for them.
Right. Right.
And yeah, and then it just happens that this has been able to scale across an organization to solve enterprise-wide problems. But you start, I don't know any other way than starting with solving a small problem or a specific problem for a team or a person, and then
Right.
go.
That's just proving, right? You prove that there's a product that does solve the problem. You have a client that's happy, and then I think you use that as a referral over and over again. Well, I mean, I think it's sage advice that you would give to a cybersecurity startup like yourself is, right, know the market, solve a problem, right? That's and I always find it interesting when they say, well, we solve a problem. I go, yeah, but did you know that 27 other companies solve that same problem? So why you, right? Why is yours
Yeah,
toaster so much better than all the other toasters out there? That's a real
because
hard case to make.
sure, because you go like, oh, my stuff's new and unique. Okay, but is it? And you hear I don't necessarily follow this theory, but is it 10x better? So it's Peter Thiel, I think, was the 10x theory of like, is it 10x better than the other thing? Okay, I don't think it has to be that, but if yours is only like, if the other solution they have already in place that's free for them or it's already implemented is 80% of what you're doing, and your 20% isn't really like, it's might be cool and interesting, but isn't that much value add, they're not going to change. It's got to be a significant change to what they're able to do today to make somebody make that difference in that pain of switching from something else and implementing something new. It is pain for them, and remember that like the the customers adopting you has work on their side no matter what. So how do you make that one easy for them? And the value, no, this value is so much that we're absolutely taking making the bet on Replica that this is going to solve a problem for us that we just can't solve right
Right. Interesting. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. I mean, again, I got to see you in front of our members. Our members seem to be very keen on this. So I look forward to following you as, this continues to grow and you get more and more traction. And, when we introduce you to members again